Hey, good Wednesday morning. Michael Clark here with BAMWX.com, wherever you may be watching this from. Hope you're catching some value out of these as we get into the planting season, the growing season. These videos will become crucial in the agricultural industry. Farmers, folks are looking at long-term pattern trends and things like that. We're just trying to offer some value out there right now in terms of sharing these videos with folks. So hope you're enjoying them. We'll continue to do them as much as I can here, as much as time allows. I'm looking at a snowfall reanalysis from the storm system over the last couple of days using our NOHRSC data here. Heck of a storm, southeastern Nebraska from Lincoln to Omaha. Look at that. That's a 20-inch contour there. That's wild. Des Moines places 11, 12 inches of snow. A nice snow in Chicago, Rockford area, Milwaukee, Madison, 6 to 10 inch snow fell across south central Wisconsin into Michigan as well. So a heck of a storm. We're going to do it again this weekend. We're going to change the orientation up a little bit as we look at one of the, what I like to call, it's kind of in the middle between a Colorado low and a Panhandle hooker storm system coming in. And I think we're going to kind of be able to see that. We look here just real quickly at our European weather model going out here into the weekend. This is the storm system we're going to be tracking coming right off of Colorado, but also swings through the panhandles of Texas and Oklahoma. It's like kind of a combo of the two, but typically these lows like to ride right along the Ohio River, and that's what the European is doing. And then it's going transferring off to the East Coast and possibly bringing some snow into the D.C. area. But a big snow dialed up, possibly Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and then up into the mid-Atlantic states. And then you just look here at all of the snow in California. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, you're talking 100 inches or more of snow in California. Look at 7-day QPF numbers. A lot of this coming in the form of snow, and the European high-res model is 6 inches plus of liquid in some of these areas. It's incredible. We need the liquid. We need the rain in the Ohio Valley and the Eastern Corn Belt. We're looking to possibly receive that. Over an inch QPF numbers coming in over the next 7 days across the east, south central Midwest as well, Illinois. So some good rains at a good time coming here over the first 7 days here of February, or getting into that at least. 7-day snowfall totals. European kind of leading the way on this. I like what it's doing. If anything, we're noticing the Hudson Bay High trending stronger as it gets closer. That's going to squeeze. The low's probably going to do, if I had to guess, it's probably going to do something like this, okay? You're probably looking at this outcome where you transfer and then you go back here. It's why you see kind of two epicenters of snow, if you will, where you get some deformation and some banding, some frontogenesis that takes place. I think you're looking at a good snow in both of these locations, give or take 50 to 100 miles north or south. It's still a few days out, but the signal is strong on the ensembles, and we've got this classic track here. These Colorado lows typically produce very nice snows in the Ohio Valley. I'm fully anticipating winter storm this weekend across the Ohio Valley at this point, so we will keep an eye on it. All right, looking at overnight model data trends, I'm looking at the EPS model cycle difference, so the difference for week 2 versus the run 12 hours ago on the top left, and I'm looking at the GEFS, the American model, the difference from 12 hours ago, both in the week 2 period, 7 to 14 day, both trended colder in the week 2 period. All right, I'm going to talk about what they're doing and what we think they're going to do, why we believe what we think, what we're going to show you. So here's the trend too at 500 millibar in the heights. Okay, we're seeing more troughiness here, more blocking in the North Pacific. If there's ever been a time this winter where we could be looking at a legitimate shot of Arctic air for most of the country in wintry weather, I do believe it is coming now. It's not a slam dunk yet, and I'm going to talk to you and tell you why I believe that. First and foremost, a lot of the change here is coming from the tropical forcing of the Madden-Julian Oscillation, where we see a lot of the upward motion, tropical convection over the maritime continent. This was back on the 19th of January. We fast forward that 6 to 7 days, and we see the epicenter of that, if you will, has shifted east towards the date line and arguably in phase 6 right now, close to 7. Okay? Arguably close to 7. So we've seen some progression. We've seen some propagation in the MJO pulse moving east across the date line. We're noticing the strong subsidence signal over the Indian Ocean. All right. When we look at the RMMs, look at these Wheeler plots here. One thing we're noticing the models have done, they're waffling back and forth between 6 and 7 for one. All right. Excuse me. And watch, I said I currently believe we are in probably right on the line between 6 and 7. Is yesterday the EPS was trying to do this. It was trying to go down into here, 8, quicker. The GEFS hasn't quite done that yet, and I've talked about this. The GEFS has held on to eastern U.S. ridging, southeastern ridging longer because of the Phase 7 influence. And so we've kind of seen the EPS fall back to this. Now we look at our income. It's a different form of our, a different weather model we use for the MJO. And it's going into 7 a lot slower. Out by day 10, it's getting into 7. My concern, or the risk here, is perhaps we do not make it fully into 8. Not saying that won't happen, but if there's a risk for that, that would be the risk. So the risk to this forecast overall, again, is this that, what do we do with the MJO? Do we get into Phase 8? That's really what we have to figure out here. If we look at the evolution of the European model, we bring in a really nice storm, once again, by day 10, 11, and 12. We've talked about a big early February storm for a couple weeks now to our customers, so they're well aware of that potential. And you see it for a time, oh, wow, that looks good. Yeah, we got a big front coming in. Yeah, it does. But watch what starts to happen back again to day 13 and a half. The ridge, the eastern U.S. ridge starts to build back in, the southeast ridge. Yeah, the NAO is there, okay? I see it. You see it. We all see it. But the eastern ridge, the risk there is that the East Coast, the eastern U.S., can still remain warmer because the EPS is now not getting us into Phase 8 yet, even at the end of the run, into the period here, okay? So here's what Phase 7 during a La Nina looks like for the MJO. The eastern U.S. warmth, extreme cold can filter into the central U.S., Midwest, and even into the North Plains. It can, and it probably will. It's probably going to get pretty cold in the upper Midwest. Chicago to Tulsa to Denver up towards Seattle points north. I think you could probably get it on more snow and more cold. Where you're going to struggle to get cold is from Dallas to Atlanta to New York City. Okay, so when we're considering natural gas or HDDs, that's a factor, right? There's a lot of attention on the Midwest this year. MJO Phase 7 can offer up cold into the Midwest. It can. And like I said, it will. It's going to. Here's your 10 to 15-day EPS, top left, GEFS bottom left. Okay, you can see what I'm talking about. GEFS a little bit more aggressive with it, but the analog suggests, all right, that there's warmth there. The EPS is probably not as warm as the analog because of the negative NAO, so that is helping to mute that factor. Now, Phase 8, well, if we do get into it, that's where everybody can get cold. The GEFS long range does not happen to do that until about the 14th of February or about day 18 or 19. The EPS weekly does the same thing. Also, it's not as cold, mind you. Regardless, they both eventually do it. So, if they go into Phase 8, great, we get cold. And if there's ever been the opportunity this winter where we here at BAM Weather believe that it can get cold for everybody, this would be the time that potential for that to occur. Okay, probably in the 15 to 20 day right now. So I know we've gained 48 HDDs or whatever, and it's been somewhat unexpected, and we've seen that come very quickly. We also have to be careful that the models are too quick with this, and it's possible we could lose some HDDs. And we could warm it up a little bit if we stay into Phase 7 longer. That's always the risk here. That is the risk. Look at the Phase 7 MJO 500 millibar heights. Look at what we're seeing here. I mean, we're seeing a very distinct pattern. It's that's what it is. I mean, you just can't argue it. You've got your lower heights here. You've got your Arctic high. Your North Pacific Ridge, but you've also got your Eastern U.S. Ridge, your Southeast Ridge. It's here, and both pieces of data have it. And even into the 10 to 15, I still believe we're in Phase 7, so we can't rush this process. it's not going to happen as fast as what you might want it to. I do not believe. Phase 8, I kept the 10 to 15 here. You see what the difference is in Phase 8? The difference is we get rid of the Southeast Ridge suggestions. We still keep overall the same blocking pattern. We work in a more of a positive P&A, negative AO, negative NAO pattern. Okay? So something interesting to know. We've got to watch that. We've got to watch the progression of the MJO. It all hinges on that, really. It really does. We look at the HDD forecast from 0Z. We're looking at 10 and 30-year normals. GFS op right here. All right. Ensembles up here. Now, I'll tell you, the GFS 6Z. The GFS 6Z went, the operational trended much colder towards the end, gained a ton of HDDs at the end, gained almost 13 points there at the end. And what it's doing is it's bringing down the polar vortex. It's bringing down the TPV, the tropospheric polar vortex. I'm gonna show you that for fun at the end because it is possible. That's the other risk to this outlook that we need to discuss very quickly before we wrap it up. These are all the 7 to 14 day data charts. European, GEFS, GFS operational, which again I did mention, the latest run trended colder. GEFS downscale, which is bias corrected, high res, warm in the east. NAFIS is warm in the east. NAFIS probabilities are still warm in the east in the 7 to 14. So with that being said, here's our week 2 outlook right now. All right, now I want to preface that just because it's above average doesn't mean that it can't snow. You can see on our ensemble snow predictions here that there's definitely plenty of snow on the table here. No, there's not going to be a shortage of winter weather and snow in this pattern. But we're not all in on the cold yet. I don't think that can happen until mid to late week 3. All right? The caveat, the twist to this, it's going to be an active pattern, mind you, is going to be the stratospheric polar vortex and the evolution of all that. Watch what the European operational does day 4 to day 10. It develops another warming event and virtually splits the parent the entire vortex and develops a lobe over Greenland and the Hudson Bay. If this were to happen, it's going to be much easier to tap into an Arctic air source quicker. So the combination of the tropical forcing shifting across the dateline and the jet reorganizing or reorienting itself with the North Pacific ridging developing could speed up the process from the polar vortex side of things. So again, a legitimate colder risk can surface in the second week of February. And we're seeing this. This can also really help with cold air taps into winter storms. I think February could be pretty snowy for a lot of people. All right? And we're seeing it. We're seeing the GFS, the GEOS. We're seeing the connection down to the surface. The GEOS arguably even quicker than the GFS. We're seeing the possibilities. So we've got to watch that. Watch the 6Z GFS for fun. I'm going to wrap it up. Look what it does. Major intrusion of Arctic air, second week of February. That's the polar vortex. That's a piece of it coming straight down from the Arctic. And that is not off the table if we see some of the reorientation of the polar vortex. Okay, so we've got 2 pieces to watch, and we've got a shot at legitimate cold and snow for the second week of February. We have to be careful. If these PV forecasts end up being fantasy land and not verifying, that's gonna pimp it. All right, that's my word, pimping it. And then if the MJO can't get out of 7 into 8, that's going to pimp it. You're going to pimp the North Pacific pattern. You're going to have a hard time getting rid of the eastern U.S. ridge, the southeast ridge. We got to watch those 2 things. All right? We've said all along we haven't bought in on the cold. If we're going to buy in, we're going to buy in now into week 2 and 3 of February, possibly. We'll keep you posted, guys. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, reach out to us. Have a great day.